I was never good at explaining why certain moments stick to me. Some hours pass like water. Others leave their weight behind. The night she held my hand first, before anyone else noticed, before things spiraled into something I still don't understand, it started like nothing special. The auto repair shop was almost closing, the kind of place that smells like old oil and burned coffee. I'd been helping out in the back, sorting parts, when I saw her again. She wasn't there for anything dramatic, just to ask about her car, something about a rattling sound she wanted checked. She always walked in like she had all the time in the world. Mid-40s, hair swept back like it had been pinned in a rush but still looked deliberate. She never seemed hurried, even in a place as unromantic as a greasy shop with a flickering light above the counter. I caught myself watching the way she leaned on the counter, not impatient, not restless, just present. "Does it always smell like this in here?" she asked, almost teasing. I laughed too quickly, wiping my hands on a rag. "Only on the good days." She gave that kind of smile where you can't tell if it's approval or if you've just embarrassed yourself. My chest felt tight, like her silence held more weight than my words ever could. I reached for the clipboard to take her details, but the pen slipped out of my fingers. Before I could grab it, she did. Her hand brushed mine, steady, warm, deliberate in its slowness. A simple touch, but it lasted just a fraction too long. Long enough to register. The room felt suddenly quiet. The old radio in the corner crackled, but her eyes, dark, calm, knowing, pulled me out of everything else. I should have said something ordinary like, "Thanks," but nothing came out. Then came the interruption. A voice at the door, her cousin, maybe a little older than me, stepping inside with an easy familiarity. She glanced down at our hands still close, her brow lifted in something between suspicion and playfulness. In a quick motion, she tugged me lightly by the arm, as if rescuing me from a spell. "You're keeping him busy," the cousin said, half teasing, half warning. The woman only tilted her head, no defense, no denial. Just that unreadable calm again, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. I stumbled over an excuse, but the cousin was already pulling me toward the doorway. I looked back, only once, and caught her watching me, expression soft, almost amused. I don't know why, but that look stayed. That night, I kept replaying her voice in my head, like I missed something, or maybe wanted something. The thing about her touch, it wasn't just about the pen. It was the fact that it didn't belong in my day. Nothing about this should have felt personal. She was just another customer, technically, but not to me. She lived in the apartment across from mine. I'd seen her carry groceries late at night, heard her lock her door when the hallway was too quiet. We weren't supposed to overlap here, in my world of oil stains and rattling engines. And yet we did. She lingered by the counter after her cousin left, pretending to check her phone. But her eyes, drifting, returning, catching mine every so often, made it feel like she wasn't in a rush to leave at all. "Long day?" she asked, her voice lower now. "Feels like they all are," I muttered, trying to keep busy with the clipboard. My hands moved too fast, like if I focused on the writing I wouldn't notice the way she was studying me. Her car problem wasn't urgent. She could have left after a minute. Instead, she set her bag on the counter, as if claiming space. She hesitated, unusual for her. "I've been handling too much on my own lately. You know how that is." I looked up, surprised. She never broke her composure. Not in the elevator, not in the parking lot, not even when she burned her hand on her coffee last week and brushed it off like nothing. But now her voice had the faintest crack. "Yeah," I said, softer than I meant to. "I know." Silence stretched. My chest tightened. I noticed the details I shouldn't have. The faint line on her forehead that deepened when she frowned. The chipped nail polish she hadn't bothered to fix. The way she pressed her thumb against her palm like she was holding something back. I wanted to say something stupid. Something like, "You don't have to handle it alone." But that wasn't my place. She must have read something on my face, because she tilted her head, studying me in return. Then, with a suddenness that made my stomach flip, she said, "You don't have to close up right away, do you?" Her hand rested lightly on my arm. Not pulling, not demanding, just there. I almost answered too quickly. Almost told her more than I should. Instead, I just nodded. And the air between us grew heavier. I should have stepped back. That's what kept circling in my head as her hand lingered on my arm. But instead, I froze, caught between the simple weight of her touch and the dangerous silence that came with it. "I don't usually talk like this," she said quietly, her eyes fixed not on me, but on the scuffed floor between us. "I've been out of something for a while now, and it's strange adjusting." It wasn't a confession, but it landed like one. My pulse jumped. She'd just admitted something raw, something private, and it wasn't meant for a mechanic behind a counter. Yet here she was, giving it to me. "I get it," I murmured. "It's not easy." Her gaze flicked up, sharp, as if testing whether I really could get it. Then, before I could prepare, she brushed a strand of hair back and her fingers grazed mine again. Softer this time, almost an accident. My throat tightened. I wanted to retreat into routine, into the safe noise of work. But every small thing about her pinned me in place. The faint scent of her perfume clashing with the bitter grease smell. The way her chest rose too quickly with a half-held breath. Then, salvation or maybe punishment, the phone behind the counter rang. Loud, jarring, pulling me halfway out of the trance. I jumped to grab it. "Yeah, shop's closing soon," I said into the receiver, my voice cracking more than I wanted. Whoever it was didn't matter. The words were just noise, a cover for the rush of my heartbeat. When I hung up, she was watching me, really watching. "You looked nervous," she said, almost smiling. I laughed once, too harsh. Maybe I was. The space between us shrank again. I didn't know who moved first, or if it was just the gravity of the moment. Her hand rested on the counter, mine close enough that a shift of an inch would bridge the gap. I thought about pulling away. I thought about saying something neutral. "I'll check your car tomorrow," but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I stayed there, staring at the almost touch, at the unspoken thing building between us. The door rattled suddenly, someone trying to push it open. We both snapped our heads toward the sound. The lock held. Whoever it was, they left without entering. The silence after felt sharper, heavier. I turned back to her. Her lips parted, as if she was about to say something neither of us could take back. The knock at the door should have ended it. A reminder of the world outside, of reasons to keep distance. But when the sound faded and the quiet settled again, neither of us moved. Her hand stayed close to mine on the counter, fingers curling, releasing, as if she was fighting some invisible argument with herself. I swallowed hard, aware of every second stretching longer than it should. "You know," she said at last, her voice almost unsteady, "people would look at this differently." I forced a dry laugh. "At what?" Her eyes lifted, pinning me. "At this?" She gestured faintly between us. "Whatever this is." It was the first time either of us named it, even halfway. My mouth went dry. "I don't want to make things harder for you," I said, surprising myself with the softness in my voice. "You don't owe me anything." Something flickered in her eyes. Hurt, maybe, or relief. That's the thing. I'm tired of owing. Tired of explaining. She exhaled, her shoulders dropping, and for once the confidence she always carried slipped. She looked exposed. The words sat heavy between us. My mind raced, telling me to step back, but my body leaned in closer without permission. I caught the faint tremor in her hand, the way her breath shortened as I moved. "I shouldn't be here this long," she whispered, though she made no move to leave. "Then why are you?" The question came out rough, too raw before I could reel it in. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Instead, she looked at me with something I couldn't name. Fear, want, regret. all tangled in one. I realized then I wasn't breathing right. The space between us felt like it was collapsing, inch by inch, without either of us saying yes. Her hand twitched toward mine, stopped, drew back an inch, and then she said, barely audible, "Do you want this?" The room froze. My chest burned. I opened my mouth, but the words tangled, useless. All I could do was stare back at her, caught in the silence that felt more dangerous than anything I could have confessed. Her question, "Do you want this?" still hung in the air, raw and dangerous, when the door creaked again. This time it wasn't a stranger testing the lock. The cousin from earlier slipped back inside, holding a set of forgotten keys. The woman's hand flew off the counter as if burned. Her posture straightened, the composed mask snapping back into place. "Everything all right?" the cousin asked, her eyes narrowing, bouncing between us. "Fine," the woman said quickly. Too quickly. But the cousin wasn't convinced. She tilted her head, smirking slightly at me. "Funny. You look familiar. Did you ever?" Her voice trailed, searching my face. I stiffened. My chest tightened because I did know her, though not in the way she expected. The cousin had been in one of my night classes a year ago, back when I was still fumbling through college credits. She'd sat 2 rows behind me, occasionally whispering to the guy next to her. Recognition flickered in her eyes. "Wait, yeah, you're the one who used to write in that beat-up notebook. The one you never let anyone see." Heat rushed up my neck. The notebook. My half-secret world of thoughts, confessions, and sketches. Wasn't something I wanted laid bare, least of all here. The older woman turned toward me slowly, her expression shifting. "Notebook?" she asked, curious but careful. I hesitated, caught between denial and the truth. But her gaze pressed into me, and I couldn't dodge it. "It's nothing," I muttered. "Just stuff I used to write down. Things I didn't know how to say out loud." Her eyes softened, almost painfully so, like she understood exactly what I meant. The cousin rolled her eyes and tossed the keys onto the counter. "Well, don't stay too late. Place like this, people start talking." She left with a laugh, the sound sharp in the quiet she left behind. And suddenly, it was just us again. But something had shifted. She looked at me differently now, not just as the younger neighbor or the mechanic. Her eyes lingered longer, more searching, as if wondering what I had written in those pages. What words I never said. "You still have it?" she asked softly. I swallowed hard. "Yeah." For the first time, she smiled. Not the unreadable kind, but one that reached her eyes. And I had no idea whether that made things safer or far more dangerous. Her question still echoed in me. "You still have it?" The way she asked, it wasn't about the notebook anymore. It was about everything I'd been holding back. I nodded, words caught in my throat. For a second, she just looked at me, and the shop's dim light turned the lines around her eyes into something almost fragile. "I think," she began, voice low, "that maybe we've both been carrying too much alone." I leaned against the counter, my hands restless. "You don't know what's in that notebook." "Maybe not," she said softly. "But I know the look of someone who writes instead of speaking. I know what it means to hide what you really want to say." The silence that followed pressed in on me until I couldn't bear it. So I said the thing I shouldn't. "I notice you. Every day. Even when you don't look my way." Her breath caught. For a moment, I thought I'd broken something. But then she whispered, "You think I don't notice you too?" My chest tightened. All the near misses, the pauses, the interruptions, it all collapsed into this single point. We stood on opposite sides of the counter, but it felt like the smallest distance in the world. I reached forward, stopped halfway, my hand hovering between us. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. She closed the space, just the brush of her fingers against mine, a touch that trembled with the weight of everything we weren't supposed to say or do. "I can't promise anything," she said, barely audible. Not the way you might want. I'm not asking for a promise, I said quickly, almost desperate. Just don't pretend this isn't real. Her eyes locked on mine. No teasing, no mask, just honesty. And for the first time, we let the silence speak for us. No kiss. No sudden collapse into cliché. Just her hand in mine, steady, deliberate. A decision to acknowledge, not to deny. When she finally let go, it wasn't rejection. It was something harder, restraint. Tomorrow, she whispered. Let's see if this still feels the same. And then she was gone. The sound of the door closing, leaving me alone with the echo of her words. But I knew I wouldn't sleep. Not after that. The next morning, I opened the shop early, though I didn't expect her to come. I told myself the night before had been a mistake, that maybe she would tuck it away the same way I tried to. But when the bell over the door rang, and I saw her step inside, my chest tightened all over again. She wasn't dressed up, not like the woman who always carried herself with polished calm. She looked lighter. No mask, no armor. Just her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't the heavy kind anymore. It was careful, waiting. You didn't have to show up, I said quietly. I did, she replied. Her gaze met mine with a steadiness that made my throat ache. Because I didn't want last night to feel like a mistake. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The words I'd rehearsed all morning. Apologies, excuses, ways to step back, fell apart. Instead, what came out was simple. So where does that leave us? She came closer, leaning on the counter like she had the first time. But now her hands weren't busy pretending. One of them rested on mine, soft but sure. It leaves us with honesty, she said. I can't give you forever. I don't even know what tomorrow looks like for me. But I can't ignore this anymore. Her words didn't sound like a promise. They sounded real. Flawed, uncertain, human. And that was enough. I nodded, squeezing her hand. Then honesty it is. Something in her expression softened, like a weight she'd been carrying finally slipped. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked less like the neighbor who lived across the hall, and more like someone who chose to be here with me. We didn't kiss. We didn't make grand declarations. We just stood there, holding hands in a quiet repair shop that smelled like oil and coffee, knowing we'd crossed something we couldn't step back from. Later, when she left, I stayed by the counter, replaying every word, every pause. Not with regret this time, but with something closer to hope. Because whatever came next, it was real, and it was ours.